Hello, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, or whatever time of day it happens to be where you are when you're watching this. This is, of course, the great and glorious, soon-to-be famous one day Nick Dutch. That's just an introduction, by the way. And unfortunately, I've been rather unwell recently, and I've managed to catch a really rather nasty cold, so I haven't been able to work as hard as I'd have liked to, and haven't been able to make as many videos as I'd have liked to either. But, as is traditional, my brain has been whizzing on its own little path, its own little trajectory in the meantime, and I've just been thinking a little bit more about, where I stand and my point of view and all that kind of stuff. Some of you people have been watching my videos since I started out a certain period of time ago, and some of you have just come onto the scene and just seen me saying my stuff against the conspiracy theorists in one of my more recent videos. But that's not the whole me, that's just part of the way I see the world. I do think conspiracy theories are wrong, and it is conspiracy theories which helped to create the conditions whereby the Second World War could actually occur. And I think that's something we all have to remember. But essentially that's not what I want to talk about today. I want to go back to the original traditions of this particular channel, and I guess talk more about supernatural stuff. Now, belief in the supernatural in its own right is completely and utterly irrational, illogical, and downright wrong, because it's belief. If you look up the word belief in a dictionary and you find out what it means, you will see why belief is essentially wrong. It's accepting something without enough information. Now, within the New Age communities, belief is the be-all and end-all of everything, and if you got belief, that's good enough, which I still consider to be bad. I mean, the whole reason to get involved with something that could have some kind of miraculous impact upon your life must be something slightly more than just religion. If you want to be religious, I mean, there's millions of different ways of being religious. You don't have to be a New Ager or a Wiccan or a pagan or a theosophist. You just don't have to adopt a new religion, unless, of course, the problem you're trying to solve is the problem of your own religious identity. And if that's the thing, then, fine, go for it and all the rest of that. But when we go on to the subject of magic, which of course implies something very serious, it implies being able to create certain varieties of changes by supernatural means, not as Crowley intended, namely to use the word magic as to be and to do, namely just to live and just to try and apply scientific thought to absolutely every single thing that you do in day-to-day life. Okay, it's a different situation, because if you're not within the Thelemite religion, the use of the word magic obviously means something slightly different to just being and doing. It's a different word, right? It must therefore have different meanings. And I think about why people use this abomination of a phrase, "it works," when applied to the supernatural. And I've come to the conclusion that it's just a question of trying to fortify groupthink. When I was just about to make my exit from paganism, when I was in I think it was my early 20s, and I just had this high priest of a Wiccan coven basically trying to force his interpretation of what God was into me, and a number of things popped into my head. Number one, was this person intelligent enough and civilized enough and creative enough to realize that a chronic fatigue sufferer would develop an interest in something called magic for something else rather than just spiritual developments or a desire to dedicate himself to the horned god, right? Because if you're a chronic fatigue sufferer, you'll do anything to get better. I mean anything. But, he couldn't understand that. So I came to the conclusion that what he was trying to do was to create groupthink. It's almost as if Christian fanatics who try and convert people to Christianity don't really give a shit for Jesus Christ. They don't give a shit for their religion or to convert people to their religion. They care for terrifying people into following the group think the way that they understand it. If you get different Christians from different denominations and put them in the same room, they will not agree on matters of politics, medicine, and essentially all the rest. But if you take an individual and expose him to a person who is curious about religions, then the first individual will try their damnedest to terrify the other individual into submission. So when people use the word "it works" within the more occult communities, there is a cultural propagation issue at stake there, and it's not the issue of whether dowsing, reading tarot, or casting spells actually has the assumed results. It's more a question of how can I persuade this individual to think the way that I do. And of course, one of the ways of doing that is through religious and superstitious fear and dread, which is thoroughly undesirable as far as I can tell. It's inappropriate, and it is deception. There was one individual who I used to know who chose to use religion and mysticism as his main tool of bullying, because he knew that the arguments he was portraying could not really be criticized apart from by reasoned, intelligent, and scientific thought. And there's an awful lot of that which goes on in all forms of religious circles. When I was getting involved with the occult and magic in particular, I was predominantly looking for a cure for my health problems. I didn't find it. My fascination with the occult remained because strange experiences carried on happening. But, and as I said to some very good friends of mine over dinner just a few nights ago, having strange experiences can only prove that you can have strange experiences. It does not prove what the strange experience suggests. And this is something which occultists and people within New Age religions just seem to forget. And this is bad, because to forget this, and also by inference to deliberately or seemingly deliberately try and use this cognitive aberration as a means of controlling people has to be regarded in some strange manner as being immoral. Firstly, because you're promising something that you can't deliver, and secondly, because if you're doing it deliberately, then you're doing it to deliberately control somebody, to control somebody's way of thinking, and to take away from them the use of logic, reason, and science, which is again something which I personally consider to be an abhorrence. You know, if magic, so to speak, is an art and science of causing change to occur in conformity with the will, and by inference, by supernatural means, not just by neurolinguistic programming means, but by supernatural means, then there must be scientific thought inserted into the equation. And some people do masquerade that they use scientific thought, but this is still not only a fallacy, but a tactic of deception, and deception which is geared towards adjusting other people's minds, again through fear. And it's unnecessary. I mean, people do post comments on my videos, especially my original one on demonology, saying things like, you know, aren't demons fallen angels? Well, how in the name of all that's holy and or unholy and or none of the above are we supposed to know what demons are? We don't. We don't know what angels are. All we've got is a load of mythology that people have written down, stuff that they have either believed or they've wanted people to believe for the purposes of controlling them. But the strange experiences still carry on. I still have them. And they've still got to be understood because they say something about us as human beings. Alright. Nick Dutch signing out. Stay sane, stay rational, don't let the bastards grind you down, and all that kind of jazz. Speak to you in a while.